Live news shows are meant to be as serious as it gets, but they're still live TV, and sometimes weird things happen. These are the bloopers, freakouts, and frightening moments no one saw coming.
Get your umbrella ready, because these are the meteorologists who lost it on live TV. In May 2019, a tornado shredded the streets of Dayton, Ohio. Luckily, locals can't say the alarms weren't sounded, according to Newsweek, thanks to Fox 45's weatherman Jamie Simpson.
All this heavy rain is between you and the tornado.
But not everyone was happy about it. Simpson's live report, made several hours before the tornadoes rushed through, cut in on an airing of The Bachelorette.
I was just checking social media. We have viewers complaining already. Just go back to the show. No, we're not going back to the show, folks.
Rather than ignore the social media fire, Simpson flipped out.
I'm sick and tired of people complaining about this. Our job here is to keep people safe, and that is what we're going to do.
He added,
some of you complain that this is all about my ego. Stop. Okay, just stop right now. It's not.
The tornado ended up claiming 1 life, destroying a large part of central Ohio and injuring 12, according to Today. When Simpson's clip went viral, Dayton locals praised him for his dedication. Back in 2005, CNN weather reporter Chad Myers was explaining the situation surrounding Hurricane Katrina. But when anchor Carol Costello kept asking him to speak in words the average viewer could understand, Myers hulked out.
Lower
Chad,
pressure, but
Chad,
Camille.
Chad,
let me talk, Carol.
Translate that for us.
Evidently, Myers didn't like the situation.
Well, if you would let me talk.
By the end, Myers smiled and claimed that he was just having fun, but it sure didn't look like it.
All right.
Carol.
Thank you, Chad.
All right, just having fun with you this morning.
To be fair, The Week points out that this footage was filmed and broadcast at 4:30 a.m., and that's one heck of an hour to keep it together on camera. A lot of people find the mere sight of a spider too much to bear, including Global News meteorologist Kristi Gordon, who freaked out on live TV when a giant arachnid was projected right over her head.
Oh my gosh, that was creepy!
As you can imagine, her coworkers erupted in hysterical delight.
I can't stand it.
Although she was clearly a good sport, it took her a moment to shake off the heebie-jeebies.
Okay. Oh my gosh. Okay.
Seriously?
I'm so sorry.
Back when everybody was bonding over the miserable 2018 cold snap, Grand Rapids meteorologist Garry was clearly tired of everyone complaining, according to the Detroit News. After reporting day in and day out on Antarctic-style conditions, Frank finally snapped.
Well, because you guys are dragging me down. You guys keep... Well, every time I get done with the 7-day, you guys are like, oh, gosh.
He continued,
Doesn't matter what time I come on. 4:30, 5:30, 6:30, and then you expect me to be chipper for 5 straight hours.
To be honest, that does sound like a horrible gig.
Here's a 60. I don't know if that's good enough for you guys. Get excited. Maybe I'll disappoint you with the 7-day here in a few minutes.
CNN reported on WITI-TV's Angelica Duria, who got stuck standing in a Milwaukee snowstorm for an entire morning, reporting on weather that clearly wasn't going to improve. But as the lunch hour finally approached, Duria's good spirits melted away and she finally lit up the screen.
I have been here since, 3:30 this morning. I'm exhausted. I've run out of things to say. It is snowing and it sucks here.
Not surprisingly, everyone back in the studio applauded.
Angelica, welcome to Real Milwaukee.
Australian weather reporter Steve Jacobs once met a curious pelican named Marnie while reporting from the zoo.
Brushes the south of
You love it.
To be fair to Marnie, the pelican's pecking attack seemed more playful than aggressive, but that didn't make it any less hilarious.
I'm mentally scarred.
Even Jacobs couldn't stop laughing.
I gotta sit down. Woo, when animals attack, there's a beauty never expected. My butt taken off my pelican.
In 2017, Fox 2 weather reporter Derek Kevra got so infuriated by people who didn't properly clean the snow off their cars that he filmed an entire sequence explaining how to do it.
This must be a really hard concept for people to understand.
Kevra proceeded to sarcastically demonstrate how to use a snow brush and ice scraper.
You're going to begin with a generic left to right swipe. Then, a couple inches below that, you'll swipe back.
He added,
and it's this scientific swiping motion that you will use not only on the sides, but the back.
The raging fury is so clear that it paints a magnificent portrait of what happens when you finally push a weatherman too far.
But I promise, if you follow those simple steps, you too will be able to clear the snow off of your car.
If you're Boston's Weather Channel meteorologist James Cantore, the most glorious weather phenomenon of all is when lightning strikes during a snowstorm. During a televised segment in 2015, Cantore got so psyched about this bizarre phenomenon that he screamed,
"Oh yes! 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 We got it, baby!"
According to the Washington Post, Cantore is well known throughout the weather community for his passion for so-called thunder snow. Cantore told the Boston Globe it's, quote, kind of like two seasons coming together.
"We got it! Yes! Listen to that! Listen to that! Oh, baby!"
For his sake and the sake of his fans, hopefully another rocking thunder snow happens again soon. Back in 2010, according to the BBC, weatherman Tomasz Schafernaker got caught in a rather awkward snafu when cameras switched over a second too fast, revealing him brandishing a prominent middle finger.
Accurate and provide all the detail you could possibly want. I've just seen Tomasz Schafernaker preparing for it, so I'm not in touch.
Schafernaker tried to cover it up, but no one was convinced.
Every now and then, there's always one mistake. That was it.
A spokesman for the BBC quickly issued an apology, but this wasn't the first time that Schafernaker's sense of humor got him into trouble. He previously had to apologize for calling a region, quote, Nowheresville during a 2007 segment, and in 2009, he accidentally mispronounced the phrase muddy sight as a swear word.
Anything can go wrong on live news, which means the hardest part of the job for those brave souls who sit in the anchor's chair is remaining calm and collected no matter what happens.
No. We'll do it live!
For the most part, they do an admirable job, but occasionally their emotions get the best of them. Here's a look at some news anchor freakouts caught on live TV. Anderson Cooper is one of America's most trusted anchors, but his daytime show, Anderson Live, didn't quite fare as well, ending after 2 seasons, in part due to interviews like this one with Sarah Burge. Known as the Human Barbie, Burge advocated all sorts of iffy cosmetic surgery techniques, including injecting a 15-year-old with Botox so her forehead wouldn't sweat, and that proved to be more than Cooper could handle.
I honestly have nothing more to talk to you about. I gotta be honest. I try to be really polite to all my guests. I just think you're dreadful, and I honestly don't want to talk to you anymore.
When you invite Bill O'Reilly on your show, you have to know things are going to get dicey. But The View hosts Whoopi Goldberg and Joy Behar got more than they bargained for when O'Reilly made some inflammatory comments about 9/11.
You're outraged about Muslims killing us on 9/11.
Veteran journalist Barbara Walters kept her cool and continued the discussion, eventually prompting a rare apology from O'Reilly.
All right, if anybody felt that I was demeaning all Muslims, I apologize.
Speaking of 9/11, comedian and talk show host Bill Maher knows how much trouble any discussion of the topic can cause. So when a conspiracy theorist in the audience began heckling his panel, Maher didn't waste any time personally throwing them out of his studio.
Hey, do we have some security in this building? Hey, ouch!
After reporting on a story about a medical marijuana business in Alaska, KTVA reporter Charlo Green dropped a bombshell. She actually owned the business.
I, the actual owner of the Alaska Cannabis Club, will be dedicating all of my energy toward fighting for freedom and fairness, which begins with legalizing marijuana here in Alaska.
And then she dropped an even bigger bombshell.
And as for this job, well, not that I have a choice, but I quit.
Citing moral and ethical challenges she had working for the Russian state-controlled media company, RT news anchor Liz Wahl ended her March 5th, 2014 broadcast with a mic drop.
I'm proud to be an American and believe in disseminating the truth, and that is why, after this newscast, I'm resigning.
Wahl later described the environment at RT News to the Daily Beast as being suppressive and manipulative. It actually makes me feel sick that I worked there. It's not a sound news organization, not when your agenda is making America look bad. When CNN anchor Brooke Baldwin brought all-around rabble-rouser and the living embodiment of yelling fire in a crowded theater Clay Travis of Fox Sports Radio on to discuss ESPN's suspension of Jemele Hill, she should have expected some flowery language, but she obviously didn't expect this to come out of his mouth.
I think that's a bad move. I'm a First Amendment absolutist. I believe in only 2 things completely: the First Amendment and boobs.
I'm done. This is done. This is conversation over. Yanking mics. Bye. See ya.
When the producers of Morning Joe tried to get co-anchor Mika Brzezinski to lead the news with another pointless fluff piece about Paris Hilton, Brzezinski just couldn't take it anymore and nearly lit the studio on fire as protest.
We're not covering this, all right?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm done with the Paris Hilton story.
She later told The Guardian, "I had one woman send me an email and she told me she was weeping tears of joy that someone finally took a stand. I think that the reaction in the media has been the most heartening. People in the business are saying enough is enough." One of the top tactics to try and discredit news reports you don't like is to insinuate that stories with anonymous sources are, well,
you are fake news.
But without the protection of anonymity, many sources would be too afraid of recriminations to blow the whistle, and major world-shaking incidents such as the truth behind Watergate might never have been discovered. So when former Navy SEAL Carl Higbee challenged State of America anchor Kate Bolduan over unnamed sources, she wasn't going to take it, and neither was the rest of her panel.
Please, do not even start with me that you're just going to attack sources.
Okay, so
that
what
is
about,
ridiculous.
so are you saying McMaster's lying?
You're embarrassing yourself, your party, and your country. You should not be doing this. You're a better person than this. I'm ashamed for you.
You never know what to expect watching live TV, and the accidents that occur on air aren't always happy ones. Medical emergencies turn to viral videos when these reporters suffered on camera. In January 2023, CTV reporter Jessica Robb was in the middle of a field segment. Things seemed to be going smoothly until the reporter abruptly paused and tried to gather herself. When she continued, she began immediately stumbling over her words with clear alarm in her eyes, until she ultimately decided to pass the broadcast off to another anchor. When she became unable to continue, she apologized to anchor Nariman Essa.
I'm not feeling very well right now, and I'm about to...
Okay, we'll come back to you.
The exact nature of Robb's episode was not disclosed by CTV, but Robb did make a full recovery. The reporter thanked viewers for their support on X, and the clip of the incident went viral. In response, a subset of users took the opportunity to shame Robb for having gotten the COVID-19 vaccine, which they insisted was responsible for her illness. In her statement, Robb put these users in their place, writing, "My understanding of my own medical background provides a reasonable explanation for what happened. The situation was in no way related to the COVID-19 vaccine." Oklahoma news anchor Julie Chin found herself struggling to read the words on her teleprompter in a particularly ominous manner during a broadcast in 2022. She seemed to recover after a moment, breaking from the teleprompter to apologize and acknowledge something was going on, ultimately tossing the broadcast over to the network's meteorologist. For at least a moment, however, it seemed that Chin might have been having a stroke, and that may have been at least partially true. Posting on Facebook several days after the incident, Chin wrote, "The past few days are still a little bit of a mystery, but my doctors believe I had the beginnings of a stroke live on the air Saturday morning." She shared that even before she was having trouble speaking, she had partially lost vision in one eye and one of her arms had begun to go numb. In response to these symptoms, her coworkers had called 911 and she was tended to immediately. She took the very public nature of her accident as an opportunity to educate viewers on the warning signs of a stroke. Viewers of CBS Los Angeles station KCAL got a heck of a scare at the very top of a March 2023 broadcast. Anchors Rachel Kim and Nichelle Medina began the broadcast by priming viewers for some good news from meteorologist Alissa Carlson, implying that a few days of sun were on the way. However, their chipper mood went right out the window, and immediately after they handed things off to her, Carlson fainted, dropping to the floor behind her desk without speaking a single word. The program cut to a commercial break, and there was certainly cause for their alarm. 9 years prior, Carlson had become ill on air due to a leaky valve in her heart. Fortunately, this time, the reason for her collapse was relatively benign. It was determined that Carlson had suffered from a vasovagal syncope. This condition is caused by a sudden and drastic drop in blood pressure to an overstimulated vagus nerve, which are some of the most crucial parts of the entire nervous system. After her recovery, she told CBS This Morning that she'd been feeling fine up until moments before the incident, which she chalked up to having consumed a ton of coffee and skipping breakfast. She lamented her decision to ignore how she felt and then keep going. In the same segment, Dr. John LaPook explained, "That's the worst thing you can do. You want to get flat so your heart is at the same level as your head." In 2013, Utah CBS affiliate correspondent Brooke Graham was sent into the mountains to receive some pointers in cross-country skiing from members of the Utah Nordic Alliance. Graham seemed to get just a touch flustered before passing out. Luckily, she recovered quickly.
Okay. Yes.
In a subsequent post on her blog, Graham explained that the fall wasn't a particular surprise, writing, "I am known to faint anytime I am on high altitudes and get too cold." She recalled that while she tried to alert the producer that she wasn't feeling well, the message wasn't relayed in time. By the time she received the cue to start the segment, she already felt the fainting spell coming on, but decided to try to persevere. Looking back at the footage, Graham wrote that she now found it quite funny, saying, "I have laughed many times watching this video, and I do not want anyone to feel bad if they find themselves chuckling as I go down like a tree in the forest." In December 2022, veteran Atlanta Hawks announcer Bob Rathbun was beginning his pregame segment with his co-host, NBA legend Dominique Wilkins, by his side. Rathbun would later tell The Athletic that he hadn't been feeling well that day and had vomited before the broadcast. However, he had worked while under the weather before and wasn't about to bail on the segment. As Wilkins began analyzing the night's matchup, Rathbun began to convulse and was visibly struggling to remain conscious. As the camera cut away, the announcer was treated by medical staff and later whisked to the hospital. He spent 5 days being examined by doctors who would ultimately find nothing seriously wrong. Discussing the event, Rathbun recalled, "I was thinking, I know I'm going to be sick again, but let me just get through this, then I'll go vomit. And the next thing I remember, an EMT guy was standing in front of me." Although he graciously thanked fans for their support after the incident, the jovial announcer quickly shot down any talk of retirement, expressing that his love for his job remained. In July 2023, one of soccer's biggest legends, former goalkeeper Shaka Hislap, was on the pitch working as an analyst before a soccer match. As his colleague Dan Tomasz was speaking, Hislap appeared to stumble a bit before falling face first into Tomasz. The broadcast quickly cut to a commercial, but viewers didn't have to wait too long for an update. At halftime, Tomasz addressed the home audience.
It's good news. He's conscious, he's talking. I think he's a little embarrassed about it all. He's apologized profusely.
Hislap later took to X, formerly known as Twitter, to thank his fans for their enormous outpouring of support, although he couldn't offer much in the way of explanation for the episode.
Listen, every so often life gives you a moment to pause, and this was mine.
In the video, he also took time to highlight the support he received from his ESPN team members, specifically thanking Tomasz and all the crew on site for their quick and caring response to the incident. In 2011, CBS 2 reporter Serene Branson was reporting from LA's Staples Center on the results of that year's Grammy Awards when things quickly went wrong. As soon as the broadcast was handed over to her, Branson began drastically stumbling over her words. The segment was quickly wrapped up as Branson received medical attention, and for the better part of a year, viewers were left unsure as to what exactly had happened. Fortunately, the fumbling of her words wasn't caused by something as serious as a stroke like it may have been in Chin's case. Speaking with CBS in 2012, Branson revealed she had suffered a migraine. As a result of the incident, she began accepting speaking engagements to raise awareness for the issue and called the episode a big wake-up call regarding her health. She explained, "I'm very mindful of what I'm eating. I'm very mindful when I travel to try and stay hydrated. I keep the migraine medicine with me." Channel News Asia correspondent Julie Yu gave viewers a scare in November 2022 as she and a colleague were reporting from Egypt to cover the United Nations climate change talks. As the broadcast was handed over to the veteran broadcaster and her partner, they stood in silence for several seconds before Yu fell to the floor. The studio anchor sat puzzled for several moments before moving on to the next segment, assuring viewers that Yu would receive aid. The station would later issue a statement explaining that Yu had simply been dehydrated, and that this, combined with low blood sugar, had precipitated her fainting spell. The statement also informed viewers that she would be back to work the next day and thanked the public for their concern for the reporter. In December 2015, CNN anchor Poppy Harlow was wrapping up a segment with a foreign correspondent, segueing into a new poll that reflected a degree of dissatisfaction on the part of Americans with then-President Obama's handling of the war on terrorism. As viewers saw a graphic with the results of the poll on their screens, Harlow began to fumble with her words and slur her speech before gasping and falling silent. The feed quickly cut to a commercial, and when it returned to the studio, Harlow was back on camera addressing her viewers.
I got a little hot and I passed out for a moment. I am fine. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Harlow, who was quite pregnant at the time, actually did not return that morning. Instead, she went to the hospital where she and her unborn daughter were both pronounced to be in good shape. The veteran anchor bounced back in short order and gave birth in April 2016. Australian ABC reporter Michael Rennie had only been on his current job for about a week when he gave his coworkers and viewers a scare while reporting from a Queensland meat processing plant that recently laid off hundreds of people. While doing the reports, Rennie's speech simply fell apart, and he went from minor stumbles over words to being rendered near speechless in just moments. Anchor Joe O'Brien quickly cut the segment short, but not before we got a quick look at Rennie's worrying expression. O'Brien assured viewers that Rennie was being taken care of, and fortunately, it turned out that the episode was due to simple dehydration. Rennie was back on the air the very next day, and at the conclusion of his segment, anchor Lisa Miller couldn't help but express her relief that her colleague was feeling better. In response, Rennie assured her that he was feeling considerably better and consuming plenty of water to ensure the mishap wouldn't happen again. Live TV means things can go wrong in real time, and people get to enjoy the car crash from their couch. While most shows are pre-taped and bumps smoothed out in the editing room, live interviews that go pear-shaped still happen. Here are live TV interviews that went hilariously wrong. An on-air exchange between Good Day New York anchor Jim Ryan and chief reporter Dick Oliver in 2001 turned hilariously snippy. Oliver was field reporting in Chelsea regarding a tenant and landlord dispute involving a broken elevator, but, according to Ryan, only got one side of the story. Ryan set the feud in motion when he made the poor choice of calling his colleague out on what he felt to be shoddy reporting, and the whole scene unraveled live, much to the viewing audience's delight. The New York Post posted a transcript of the incident, and it's clear that Ryan was the one to cast the first stone.
Well, if I have to teach you how to be a reporter, Ollie, I'll do that later.
Oliver kicks things up a notch himself with his reply.
I'll give you some lessons on how to be an editor because I was your boss once.
The station manager's James Clayton gave a quote to New York Post regarding the squabble, saying, "It was a little tiff and both of them regret it. Jim has wonderful reporting instincts and felt it was a story Oliver needed to pursue." During a 2017 interview with the BBC, conducted remotely from his home office, Professor Robert Kelly's two small children barge into the room and right into viral video history. Discussing a 2016 South Korean political scandal involving Choi Soon-sil, Kelly is shown talking into his computer's webcam, momentarily unaware that one lively child and then another burst into the room, living life to the fullest, elbow dancing away as if the world at large isn't tuned into their dad's office.
And what will it mean for the wider region? I think one of your children has just walked in.
When Kelly is alerted to his kids being in the room by the person interviewing him, he looks tense, but a bit of a smile crosses his face. Escalating an already hilarious moment, Kelly's wife is then seen bursting into the room in an attempt to discreetly wrangle the kids, but ends up making more of a production than both of the children. Kelly and his family later gathered in that same home office for an interview with Wall Street Journal, and Kelly explained that the reason he didn't get up to move his children himself during the original interview was because he was wearing jeans. Just one of the many perks of working from home and conducting interviews via Skype.
I don't know, man.
As of early 2020, the original BBC YouTube clip had over 33 million views. Anyone who's ever walked into work on Monday morning and found themselves thrown into vapid chit-chat while keeping their own secret cries just beneath the surface can relate to this video. KTLA reporter Courtney Friel is reporting live, tasked with the assignment of interviewing children about their upcoming first day of school, when she comes upon 4-year-old Andrew Macias. When asked if he's excited about his first day of school at City Terrace Elementary in Los Angeles, Macias at first appears to be enthusiastic.
Andrew, are you excited for pre-kindergarten? Yes.
From there, things start to unravel. His true emotions surface right around the time Friel asks if he'll miss his mom. What follows is a pure display of vulnerability, during which Macias' face melts into visible distress and then tears. 2 years later, Friel caught up with Macias to see if he'd recovered, and he was able to keep it together a bit better. When asked if he was going to miss his mom for his next first day of school, he answers honestly.
Are you gonna miss your mom?
Yes.
Yes.
While working as a weatherman for KMIR, an NBC affiliate station in Palm Springs, California, Chad Pradelli learned the hard way that body functions wait for no one. While conducting a live weather broadcast, Pradelli is in front of a weather map that he probably stood in front of with no issue hundreds of times before. But on this particular day, the poop, if you will, hit the fan. While pointing out weather patterns, Pradelli twitches and crumples, making small, desperate grabs at his body before finally asking for the station to cut to commercial.
Oh, excuse me. We gotta go to break.
When another camera cuts to the news desk, he's seen in the background, wildly maneuvering towards what one can only assume is the bathroom. According to his Twitter bio, Pradelli now works as an investigative reporter for WPVI in Philadelphia. Hopefully by now he's investigated exactly where the bathroom is. On June 14, 2014, Detroit resident Charles Bothell phoned the police to report his 12-year-old son Charlie had gone missing from their family home, according to a release from the prosecutor's office. The day after receiving the father's call, police began their search for the boy and asked for anyone with info to come forward. A timeline of the case published by WDIV Detroit reveals that Charles Bothell took a polygraph to determine if he had anything to do with his son's disappearance, but the results were found to be inconclusive. After police dogs were used to search the family's home and the boy still hadn't been found, the situation hit a dead end. But 11 days later, during a live appearance on The Nancy Grace Show, Bothell was told on air that his son had been found behind a makeshift barricade in the basement of his own home.
Charlie, we're getting reports that your son has been found in your basement.
According to a report by USA Today, the child appeared to be very thin and showed other signs of abuse on his body. When Nancy Grace breaks this news to Bothell for the first time during the broadcast, his stumped expression says all there is to say.
Sir? Mr. Bothell, are you...
On January 19, 2016, the child got his revenge when his dad pled guilty to fourth-degree child abuse charges and lost all parental rights. Some would say the consequences should have been way more severe, but at least it was something. When 10-year-old Jonathan Ware was approached by KGW local news correspondent Nancy Francis during the Rose Festival in Portland, Oregon in 2007, he had one thing on his mind: turtles. Wearing a t-shirt with a face fully painted to look like a zombie, Ware stood patiently while Francis bent down to remark on his makeup.
What do you think? I like turtles.
Period. Following the newscast, the clip was uploaded to YouTube and quickly went viral. In 2010, Ware appeared on the show Tosh.0 and was asked about the whole turtles thing.
Why do you think it's so popular?
Because I'm funny.
It was pretty funny.
Yeah.
Ware also got into what exactly had been on his mind that day.
I've seen a turtle exhibit.
Yeah.
That's in your brain.
Yeah.
Somebody's gonna ask you a question. I don't care if you're painted like Godzilla, you're still thinking turtles.
Yeah.
Makes sense. In 2014, Bustle checked in with Ware to see what he's been up to since the whole turtle thing and found that he manages his own channel titled Turtle Time. There seems to be some Real Housewives of New York City crossover potential there.
Turtle Time.
During a 2010 broadcast of the Australian news show A Current Affair, a man named Ray Graham gave a very lively reenactment of how he was chased into his home by a vicious seeming neighborhood dog.
And as soon as they saw me, they came bounding over.
As the site Know Your Meme explains, A Current Affair followed up with the man after the clip was uploaded to YouTube and quickly went viral. And he gave some insight into what he was feeling the day of the original broadcast.
I think it's hilarious. Absolutely hilarious. I love it. I've seen it dozens of times now, of course, and every time I see it, I just can't stop laughing.
Graham's wife, Carrie, who he nearly knocks over with his dog impression in the original clip, says that her main concern looking back was the state of her hair, which she hadn't had a chance to get done before the interview.
And all I can think was, oh my God, look at my hair. I haven't had my hair done. I was going to get my hair done.
Fox 5's Ted Pretty set out one 4th of July to get some live reactions from townsfolk regarding the holiday and the best fireworks to purchase that season. Broadcasting from a sleepy-looking stand in Las Vegas, the reporter happens upon a youth in a blue Under Armour t-shirt inspecting what looks to be a glossy fireworks advertisement.
Here's an actual customer out here. What's the best kind of firework to buy?
Wouldn't you like to know, weather boy?
Seemingly stunned, Pretty angles away from the kid.
Where are your parents?
The clip, which everyone took at face value to be that of a reporter having his ass handed to him by a child on live TV, was too good to be true. In a 2017 Esquire article, it was revealed that the sassy kid in the clip was actually Pretty's own son, and the whole thing had been staged. So the answer to the question, where are your parents in this scenario, is at work making fake news. Yet another example of the many ways a person's body can betray them, Nashville-based reporter Alexandra Cohen battled live blizzard coverage for Channel 5 and lost. While on camera, Cohen went into discussing severe storms that were currently hitting Tennessee and parts of southern Kentucky, when her nose began running a lot. Now sure, she's only human and runny noses happen, especially in climates as cold as the one she was reporting from, but this level of snot reached code red status. During her coverage, Cohen was a trooper and continued talking, even though the snot was now dripping onto her lips, and she was able to finish her broadcast without causing a distraction by stopping to wipe her nose, although she probably should have. Later, she tweeted from her personal Twitter account, "People are cruel, I guess that's part of the biz. I did 8 live shots in a snowstorm and was working really hard." Given the footage, her level of dedication is, obvious.
There was a time when embarrassing mishaps on live TV had a relatively short shelf life. But in today's terminally streaming world, these moments have achieved immortality, destined to be shared until the end of time. Sit back and embrace the awkwardness that has been bestowed on our TV screens over the years. If you ask weatherwoman Theresa Mannion about Ireland's unpredictable weather, you'll be primed and ready to stare right into the cruel eye of the apocalypse itself.
Don't make unnecessary journeys. Don't take risks on treacherous roads. And don't swim in the sea.
As Storm Desmond raged along Ireland's west coast in 2015, Mannion was in the trenches, soaked to within an inch of her life, but ready for battle.
Incredibly, people have been spotted in the water. Their actions are idiotic.
She became a viral sensation almost instantly. Obligatory dance remixes and countless other parodies were created mere hours after it aired.
Unnecessary journeys. Don't take risks on treacherous roads. Don't make unnecessary journeys. Don't take risks on treacherous roads. And don't swim in the sea.
Mannion was a good sport, admitting on Australia's The Morning Show that she loved the laughter and creativity it inspired, and that ultimately it was a message of safety being spread around the world.
Both today and yesterday.
Former Australian Rugby League star Mal Meninga was not the most suitable contender for the Australian Capital Territory Legislative Assembly elections in 2001, something pointed out by Mal Meninga. During a televised interview with ABC Radio, Meninga, abandoned his political aspirations.
I was just a person out there making sure that I was, I'm sorry.
He instantly resigned, marking the shortest political career on record. Satirical comedy group The Chasers started nominating politicians for the Mal Award as part of its election coverage, intended to honor the greatest acts of political self-sabotage. It's hard to know exactly what was supposed to happen during a Fox 5 News segment covering the San Diego Yacht and Boat Show, but whatever it was, this was better.
Here at the San Diego Yacht and Boat Show. Good morning, everybody. I'm hanging out with my friend John. Fox 5 Morning News starts. Look over there.
And it starts right now.
What followed in the studio was just as good.
Is your Fox 5 News.
And then the re-emerged and undeterred John commandeered his mighty transport over the pier like a wetsuited angel. What a time to be alive. You're never too old to act like a brat on live TV, as these two elderly Jordanian journalists ably demonstrated on the talk show 7 Stars in 2014. The two men got into a heated discussion about the civil war in Syria, and things got a little out of hand. Stay classy. According to the New York Times, Rick Perry's presidential bid was already on life support. But when he took the stage for this Republican presidential debate in 2011, he basically took that bid and tossed it off a cliff.
It's 3 agencies of government when I get there that are gone. Commerce, education, and the, what's the third one there? Let's see.
What follows is the slow, excruciating disappearance of a man's presidential hopes and dreams by his own hand.
Commerce, and let's see. I can't. The third one I can't. Sorry.
It's like that song title you just can't put your finger on, but with considerably higher stakes involved.
Oops.
Few performers have entertained a live audience quite as large as when Mariah Carey stumbled and fumbled her way through disastrous renditions of Emotions and We Belong Together on New Year's Eve 2016. It's hard to know what exactly went wrong on the night or just how many people were fired because of it, but Carey was having none of it.
That was...
As reported by the New York Times, her managers blamed the event organizers. The organizers claimed everything was working fine on their end, and Carey herself just blamed everybody.
We didn't have a sound check, but it's New Year's, baby. That's okay, you guys. You just don't get any better.
BBC newsreader Simon McCoy is no stranger to live TV mishaps, but he's probably best known for inexplicably holding a large ream of paper during a report in 2013, and he can't seem to live that down.
Problem drinking is on the increase, and action is needed to deal with it.
According to a BBC spokesperson at the time, McCoy had meant to pick up his tablet, but accidentally grabbed the ream of paper instead, and just decided to roll with it. The incident was puzzling enough to tickle viewers around the world for years afterward, prompting McCoy to tweet in 2017, "It was 4 years ago, people. 4 years. Move on. I am trying to." Here's to many more mishaps in the future.
Sports news over at the BBC. I've just dropped something. Sorry.
What was that?
It's all right.
And again.
Anyway, let's get the sport.
These news anchors were really creepy on live TV. From awkward behavior to inappropriate jokes, they weren't exactly living up to their most professional standards. Was no one paying attention for all these years? Sometimes being creepy is a team effort, like in this example from Canadian SportsCenter, when Pierre McGuire's director apparently told him to really scooch up next to his fellow reporter as awkwardly as possible. And then that co-anchor said the perfect setup to a joke so stupid and juvenile, there's no way McGuire could resist blurting it out.
He had mentioned Hal Gill's a defenseman with a long stick. Is this a guy that's going to be traded, though?
You're an announcer with a long stick from time to time.
Yeah, big mouth.
It's really the from time to time part of that comment that makes the skin crawl, as if McGuire keeps track of his coworkers' ebbs and flows. Jesse Watters has a reputation as Fox News frat boy pundit, but he somehow managed to maintain an actual career as a newscaster. He didn't do much to change that reputation when he made a crude joke about first daughter Ivanka Trump in response to her appearance at a women's panel in Germany. He went into a diatribe about respecting women, but then ended it with a comment that sounded like he was referencing oral pleasure.
And so I don't really get what's going on here, but I really liked how she was speaking into that microphone.
Watters came under fire, but he denied that his comment about Trump was crude, instead claiming he was celebrating how her voice sounded like a smooth jazz radio DJ. But that creepy smile of his would seem to suggest otherwise. Some guys just can't take a hint, like Good Morning New York anchor Greg Kelly, who was repeatedly scolded for ogling a fellow reporter on the air, but he just didn't seem to care. While reporting from a local water park, Anna Gilligan was wearing a bikini. She was just trying to get through the segment with her dignity intact, but Kelly was determined to make sure that wouldn't happen. Gilligan was going to dry off and put some clothes on, but Kelly kept dragging the segment on with awkward chit-chat.
Hold on a second. No, not so fast, Anna. Let's see. Anna. Let's see. This is in New Jersey, right? Be nice.
When someone says they want to go put some clothes on, you should let them go put some clothes on. No questions asked. Glenn Beck is known for a lot of things, spinning conspiracy theories, crying on the air, and generally being too crazy for even Fox News. Yet few seem to remember the time he straight up asked one of his guests if he could see her naked. Us Weekly reporter Dina Sansing was on Beck's headline news show in 2007 to discuss the leak of nude pictures of American Idol contestant Antonella Barba. While the pundit was probably counting on some graphic details coming up, there's no way she could have known Beck would offer to help her take some racy pictures of her own.
Dina, I've got some time and a camera. Why don't you stop by? No. Okay.
That's the sort of juvenile joke that probably would have gotten Beck fired if he tried to pull it off today. We all know Matt Lauer is a creep now, but back in 2012, he was still one of the most beloved names in news. That may be why he was given so much benefit of the doubt when he basically ambushed Anne Hathaway during an interview on The Today Show. He did so by bringing up a salacious photograph of the actress that had been making the rounds.
You had a little wardrobe malfunction the other night. What's the lesson learned from something like that, other than that you keep smiling, which you always do?
Lauer's condescending tone made it sound like he was implying that Hathaway was somehow at fault for someone invading her privacy, and he even seemed to be looking for an apology from her. It was baffling at the time, but not so much anymore in the light of all the misconduct allegations that have come out against him. It's not exactly reassuring when a news anchor informs his viewers that they're about to die. But that's exactly what Shepard Smith did as Hurricane Matthew barreled toward the Florida coast back in 2016.
And you and everyone you know are dead. All of you. And your kids die too.
Smith was certainly correct that Florida residents needed to evacuate for their own safety. That's true in the case of any major hurricane. The problem is that he was just a little too blunt with his warning. But then he sounded even more sociopathic when he described how the weather could interfere with his own personal plans.
If too many of you perish, they'll send me down there. And I need to go to this wedding. Okay? Thanks.
Here's hoping that all the news anchors of the world start acting a little classier as soon as possible.
Everyone likes to laugh, just not during a weather forecast. From seeing double on a green screen to a bee-bomb that sent an entire newsroom into hysterics, these are the times that TV meteorologists totally lost it. It can't be fun when a meteorologist has to go out into the field during bad weather, but at least TV weather people go into the job expecting some direct exposure to the elements. On the other hand, their colleagues over in sports will usually cover a live game outside. At least that's what sportscaster Mark Woodley of Waterloo, Iowa's KWWL News 7 was used to. But when a blast of snow canceled all the local sporting events in December of 2022, Woodley found himself as the station's unlikely man on the street during the storm. All through the night, anchors in the studio cut to Woodley's live reporting. However, the sportscaster turned weather reporter didn't seem up to the job. As a result, he gave increasingly cranky answers to their questions. At one point, Woodley half-jokingly accused someone at the station of extending the broadcast just to torture him.
The good news is that I can still feel my face right now. The bad news is I kind of wish I couldn't.
Needless to say, when daylight finally broke, Woodley didn't hide the fact that he was thrilled to be going back inside. On June 20th, 2017, global Calgary weatherman Jordan Witzel had to present the daily entry from a list of 150 physical activities Canadians could be doing. The list was put together to mark Canada's 150th birthday. But things got really uncomfortable when Witzel learned that the daily entry was on swinging. Witzel assumed that swinging was being used as a reference to spouse-swapping parties and became visibly disturbed. It took the weatherman 30 seconds to realize that this particular swinging referred to the fun activity done on a playground. After realizing his error, Witzel quipped,
"So, either way, you get your activity in for the day, I guess."
What's a local weather report without a green screen? It's become as fundamental to the segment as the forecast itself, but the technology behind green displays isn't foolproof, as Jennifer McDermott of Fox 9 Minnesota learned one spring day in 2021. Shortly after she reported on the evening temperatures, McDermott began seeing double. Because of a glitch in the green screen display, the video feed was replicated with a slight delay. This meant there were 2 McDermotts, then 3, then 4, and on it went. Each replication was slightly bigger and more delayed than the one before it. Thankfully, the display issue resolved itself when the screen cut to another graphic. However, McDermott's laughter never completely died down.
I can't even talk right now.
In 2016, the team at Denver 7 ABC decided to have fun with weatherwoman Lisa Hidalgo. Hidalgo had just wrapped up her 7-day forecast, but the producer told her to stay on camera. She soon found out why. The team had cut in footage of a raven on her green screen. However, Hidalgo didn't recoil from the bird. She laughed off the prank and mimed kissing it. She then joined the raven in cawing at the camera. On August 4th, 2022, ABC7 Chicago weatherman Greg Dutra was using a digital monitor as he talked through an upcoming change in the city's wind patterns. But when he made a gesture to indicate the wind's direction, his hand slid along the display. In doing this, Dutra was alerted to the fact that his monitor was indeed a touchscreen. Dutra and the news anchors were shocked at the discovery.
It's a great day! It's a great day!
Dutra's forecast then went off the rails as the weatherman and the news team played around with the screen. However, Dutra finally pulled things back to the weather. He even vowed to figure out how the touchscreen worked. For 15 years, Global Edmonton's Morning News has brought animals from the Edmonton Humane Society into the studio as part of an ongoing Adopt-a-Pet program. The animals are shown during the weather report by meteorologist Mike Sobel. Animals are always unpredictable before the camera, and Sobel has seen his share of funny hijinks from his guest stars. But one dog was in a league of his own. That was Ripple, a cross between a German Shepherd and a Mastiff. While tall enough to clear Sobel's knees, Ripple was only a puppy when he came onto an October 2014 weather report. He was also very interested in playing with his leash.
Sit, Ripple, Ripple, sit, sit. No, Ripple's not sitting, that's for sure.
That soon turned into a tug-of-war with Sobel, who increasingly struggled to keep his focus on the forecast. Ripple's performance might have frustrated some viewers who were only tuning in to see the weather forecast, but it also worked out for the pooch. A week after Ripple's appearance, he was adopted by a couple in Alberta. As autumn 2014 came along, the news anchors at Fox 59 Indianapolis had one thing on their minds: bees. There were a lot of them in the area, and one of the anchors made her position on the insects very clear.
As long as it's outside and
That's
not
true.
inside.
When the anchors finished their bee chat, meteorologist Jennifer Ketchmark began her weather forecast. The green screen behind her displayed the view from the studio's tower camera. So, when a bee swooped in front of the lens, Ketchmark and the anchors started cracking up. Ketchmark then said,
All right, let's get past the tower cam. I don't want to look at it anymore.
She also predicted that the segment was bound to end up on a blooper reel.
I'm going to regret that for a long time.
On July 13, 2020, WCNC's morning weatherman Larry Sprinkle seemed well prepared for his report. But as he stepped out to deliver his forecast, he noticed that several counties were showing absurdly hot temperatures of 150 degrees.
Afternoon, wow.
No matter how hard he tried, Sprinkle could not stop laughing. The graphics eventually transitioned to the correct temperatures, but Sprinkle's laughter persisted. The weatherman's laughing fit got so bad that he finally had to beg for relief from someone off camera named Ruby.
Ruby, help me, please.